Our next guest is no stranger to the city of Indianapolis and the law enforcement community. For nearly 30 years, he has both quietly and noticeably, you do that at the same time, ascended through the ranks to where he is today, and that is the Chief of Police. We'd like to welcome newly appointed Chief of Police, Randall Taylor. So, Chief, this is your first time on. Okay, yep, there's our welcome. So, welcome for you, Chief. This is your first time on Community Connection, and a number of our listeners have been wanting to have a conversation with you, which we will allow them to do in just a few minutes. But for anyone who may not necessarily know who you are, just give us a little bit of your background and tell us how you came here.
So this is actually starting my 33rd year in law enforcement. I started in Champaign, Illinois, and along with my wife, moved here in 1993 and joined the Marion County Sheriff's Department, and was working with them in a number of different capacities up till the merger of IPD and the Sheriff's Department in '07. And I continued to work mostly in investigations, and then got an opportunity to work over at Community Affairs under Chief Height. And then under Chief Riggs, I was appointed to one of 3 assistant chiefs of police. And then when he left and Chief Roach took over, he made me the singular assistant chief. So I was fortunate enough to have his mentorship for about 3 years until I got this opportunity after he left, and was appointed by the mayor on the 31st of December.
Yeah, you took the oath, January 1st?
31st.
31st, December 31st you were appointed. Okay. So only a handful of African Americans have held the position which you hold now. Did you, before you accepted the position, did you feel a particular weight as you were weighing it, and what were your thoughts?
Well, there was a lot of prayer, obviously. My prayer really was that God would allow me, if he allowed me to have this position, that I would be able to do something for the community, and whenever that time is up, that I could leave it better than what I found it. So when I was appointed, I felt great about it, but I knew that there's probably going to be some differences with a black chief. So I reached out to former Chief Height, and I spoke to a couple other chiefs, not necessarily from this area, that I had known of and respected, and asked them specifically, what's it like? What are the differences? And for the most part, they all agreed. A lot of the focus needs to be in the underserved community, the minority community. I need to make some things happen there. And so even though I'm a chief of a city of diversity, and I like that, I plan on continuing on with that, I do understand that there's some communities that are going to need a little more help, and hopefully I can be the catalyst to help out.
Did you ever hesitate before saying yes?
Well, it's kind of interesting. I didn't really hesitate. I didn't honestly consider the chief spot something that I was going to go after until I realized that Chief Roach was going to be leaving. So I was never after his job, and I would tell him, I said, you got a tough job. You're going to have, whoever comes after you is going to have big shoes to fill. At that time, not really thinking that it might be me. But when he started expressing to me and to some of his staff that he was going to be leaving, that's when it hit me that, I think I'm ready. I'm ready for the challenges. I know it's going to be tough, but I really feel that the timing is right to make some changes.
You're not quite 3 months on the job yet, and there are serious challenges that came fast and came furiously.
Yes, they did. Yeah. I've always told people that one of the goals was the reduction in our numbers as far as murders are concerned, especially, and that hasn't happened at this point. We're at 22 murders as of today. We were 12 this time last year. So that's 10 more. That's not a good way to start things off. But I am very encouraged by some of the conversations I've had with different community members throughout the community. They seem to be behind me, and they seem to have a desire to work things out and find solutions that are going to be long-lasting. So from that standpoint, I'm encouraged and I'm optimistic.
Well, we're going to talk about the subject at hand, crime in the city. I mean, you are over a police department that is in charge of enforcing crime, in the city. And one of the most egregious crimes of late was the quadruple homicide that has upset and turned a lot of people inside out. I mean, people are frustrated.
Sure.
Organizations are being formed. People are saying, hey, if so-and-so won't do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take care of it. Sunday, a number of churches, congregations, this was their message. They had a coordinated message that they wanted to all give to their congregations. I think it was something like 50 pastors that basically had conversations with their congregations that we have got to do something about this. What goes through your mind when you hear things like that?
Well, I'm encouraged because I know the answer really is in the community. So I attended Mount Carmel on Sunday, the early service, and Dr. Williams touched on those topics. And I don't know how many people were there, probably 200-300 or so, but they were all in unison as to what they wanted to see happen, and they all had a willingness to work on solutions. We've said before, these are not things really we can police our way out of. We can make arrests and we can put certain patrol plans into place, but that's not really going to stop anything like the quadruple that we had, because we can't be everywhere and we can't necessarily predict where those crimes are going to occur. So I think we're all understanding that really the solution to this problem is going to be changing the minds and the hearts of those who would commit these crimes. And along with that, allowing the community to have a voice in what we should be doing. How can we make that impact on those people that would commit those crimes?
What do you think is at the cause?
Well,
at the core, I should say. What do you think is at the core of the problem?
Sure. Well, I hear a lot of people talk about the systemic issues, education, the availability of quality homes and jobs and those kind of things. And I think those things probably do play a role. Where I have my difficulty is I refuse to believe that because maybe you've grown up with, maybe you didn't have a lot of things at your disposal, doesn't mean that we can't exercise good character and deal with situations without pulling triggers. I think the community has the answer. That some of it is going to have to be getting back with our youth and having those important conversations and mentoring them, and for parents to take responsibility for those kind of things. I mean, you can probably put in a lot of different variables in there, and I don't know that you'll have the answer, but I think it's going to start with that, and it's going to be starting, like I said, in the community. Like I said, if anyone had the answer, we would have had it a while ago. I mean, we've been dealing with this for years, and unfortunately, those numbers, they kind of ebb and flow, but for the most part, they're on the rise. So I don't know that anyone has the exact answer on how to do it or where to start cleaning the room, like you said, but I think we've got to have people that are willing to at least work on cleaning that room in some way. Yeah. And I'm not here to say that if one person thinks we need to start in the corner and another person thinks we need to start on the floor and another person seems to think we need to clean up the bed first, I'm willing to take all of those. Yeah. I think we have to, because trust me, if I had the answer, I would have implemented it by now. Yeah. But that's what we're really looking for is, let's get involved. Understand, nobody likes those numbers. People shouldn't have to live with those kind of numbers. They should not have to live with being fearful in their neighborhood or fearful for their kids or those kind of things. I've been in this job long enough. I really get concerned about kids looking at crime, especially murders that happen in their neighborhood, and then get used to it. Because we know that's no way for a kid to grow up.
Not at all.
But, it's really a relatively small group of people that I think we have the problem with from the violence standpoint. And as a community, we have to say no to it. We have to be willing to call it what it is, and we have to be willing to, whether it's calling Crime Stoppers or calling us directly or making contact with that officer that's in their beat on your street, whatever that is, I think we've got to be willing to open our mouths and try to change.